Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, MD.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AIM Impact on Your Health, heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AIM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, I got a question. I've got a couple questions. Here's my first. What is your good LDL level? Now, you heard me right. I didn't stutter. I didn't make a mistake. What's your good LDL level? Okay. How about question number 2? And I think the two are related. You'll see what I mean before the show's up and how I look them up. Is your current doctor injurious to your health? Well, some things happened around here in this past week to bring both of those questions to the forefront. I intend on answering them both and trying to educate you in the process, making you the better patient and the better consumer in the process. And that's what I intend to do today. Now, of course, this is an open phone day also. Of course, any time during my discussion with you, you can call up to ask a question yourself. Make a comment. That number, as always, will be 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. And I'll give that number additionally throughout the hour. What is your good LDL level? And it'll all make sense before the hour is up today. Now, calendar-wise, yes, hey, today's the last of the live shows in just a little bit. Of course, taking that family of mine, we're going down to the Myrtle Beach area, South Carolina, and looking forward to it. In my absence, some old favorite shows have come up. You've requested them, and I'm bringing them to you. It all comes from this earlier month. You all remember, the month of July was a good month for us. We had plenty of great guests on our show. And one of those guests early in the month was an old friend of mine, and now, well, not now, but as always, I consider a mentor to me. And I'm talking about the great Roy Carey. Roy Carey's repeat show, talking about thyroid disease from the great one himself, is going to be a repeat show from July 5, and we're going to repeat that one this Friday. So mark that one on your calendar. Next up, when we get to next week, you are about the most educated group of listeners in the entire country on the subject of vitamin C. I know that because I've brought to you much of that information, and I still find pockets of the scientific world that doesn't quite understand what you do, my general listener, with respect to the vitamin C issue. Well, we always get new ones coming along. We always like to reinforce what we have already instilled in our older listeners, and to prove it, we're going to go back to shows. I call them vitamin C1 and vitamin C2. Vitamin C1, talking about these issues on July 12th. And then we picked up the gauntlet again on July 16th. So on Monday, we're going to repeat vitamin C1, and in some form of continuity, bring you vitamin C2 on Wednesday. These are repeat shows from last month, as I said a moment ago. Then on Friday, we're going to round out the week with a repeat show of our good friend Cass Ingram. By the way, to get a couple words about Cass, I'll talk to you about in a moment. But the Cass Ingram show, which we did in July, all these shows are from July, July 21st, and as a matter of fact. And at the time, we were discussing an issue of how to survive a toxic summer. And I thought he did a great job back then at the show of relating the Gulf oil spill to things that, well, were going to be going on right around here and as well as the rest of the Northeast. I'm going to bring that show back to you. If you remember the show, right as we got to the end of it, I said to him, hey, Cass, you got to come back. got to promise you're going to come back, and I want you to talk about the book you wrote a while back entitled Natural Cures for Hypertension, High Blood Pressure. And he said he certainly would, but that we would talk about it off air. Off air, we spoke, and as it turned out, he was about ready to leave civilization and go off into the woods. He was going to be going into the forests of Manitoba, Canada, and said, would I please call him back when he reemerged from the forest on the 7th. Now, I called him yesterday. I got a hold of him. He picked up right away. It was Cass, and I said, Cass, are you out of the woods? He actually said, not really. I'm out of it. I'm going back in the woods. And so I said, well, gee, we won't be able to schedule anything. You don't have any of your scheduling planners with you, your monthly planner, your speech list. And so what we decided was, okay, go on back in, Cass. Go on back into the forest of Manitoba. We set a new date. He claims he'll be out of the woods by the 20th upon my return. I've already marked down in my book. I'm going to be contacting him. He promises he'll be able to set a date for a return with us to do the show. He had forgotten about the show, which one to do. I think he's got forest on his mind, and and we'll ask him what interesting things he picked up in the forest. But I really want to have him discuss the book that he wrote entitled Natural Cures for High Blood Pressure. I know you want to do that also. He promised me he would. I'll get a hold of him. I have now placed in my calendar to call Cass, who should be, according to him at least, completely out of the woods by the 21st of August, and that's when we'll give him a ring. Okay. I return back to do live shows with you on the 23rd, and you know it's going to be Jim Navarro. Now, Jim is going to have a whole bunch of facts by then, certainly more than he would have today, and then that he had the last time I spoke with him, all circling around and having to deal with the release of the documentary about his son and his entire family that's coming up. Last time I spoke to him, he said the release is going to be September 19th, an 87-minute documentary. We're going to hear all about it. I'm hoping to get an advance copy of this, and I have not received one yet. I know it's out and available. They've had pre-screenings, and the best I've been told by Jim is that when people are leaving, they're leaving awful angry, because although they may not recall that Jim Navarro and his son Thomas Navarro, the young boy who had the neurological malignancy, the brain tumor, for which he had done a trial of a chemotherapy, didn't want to do anymore, but the government and the conventional medical community was after him and forcing the family to consent to continue with it. Just brought in government officials. We had Dan Burton on the show. We had Beth Clay on the show, who was his administrative assistant. And this got to be a center of attention of the shows we did back in that era. Jim Navarro stopped here in the city of Pittsburgh. He visited with me in my Bridgeville office at the time. I had a chance to meet young Thomas and all the kids and the wife and the family, and I actually had run into them in other venues, other places in the country too, when they were hiding out. Anyway, we'll talk all about that on my return on the 23rd of the month with Jim Navarro, and he should be able to tell us the release dates and some more things about this 87-minute documentary on his son. Then I keep saying, finally, because this was scheduled at least a month and a half ago, trying to call James Roberts up after finally getting through the nurses wearing the football pads so that they could block anybody trying to get at their doctor. Jim Roberts said, oh yeah, I'd be happy to come on and talk to my nurses and schedule it. Well, we scheduled it at a point where we had no conflict, and we had to come all the way out here to the 25th of August to do it. But Jim Roberts is going to be our guest. Of course, he is the author of the book. I see it right here on my desk, Reverse Heart Disease Now, in collaboration with another pretty famous cardiologist, Dr. Stephen Sinatra. This becomes the textbook of how you need to be managed cardiovascularly. Many of you have the book. I say that all of you should have it, especially if you're seeing your family doctor to have these issues raised. And I'm always anxious to hear how these encounters go. In fact, we're going to be talking a little bit about how these encounters went with a patient of mine that I just met the other day, leading me to the discussion of this thing about is your current family doctor injurious to your health? You'll see what I mean before the time is up. So there you have it. That is the lineup as I see it, and I'm hoping you enjoy these repeat shows as we bring them to you. But of course, we've got all day today with you to find out what's on your mind. 412-825-6262 is the phone number to get in here. 412-825-6262. Why don't we do this? Why don't we take that short break, sort of set the stage for some things I need to get off my chest on this cholesterol myth issue. Just we're servicing in the last day or two, and in conjunction with a patient I had in the office the other day. I'll put them all together. When we return, be right back in a moment with more on the matter about what is your good LDL.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Have you been to the doctor lately? What's the big top of your complaint list? Even if your doctor asks you what you eat, the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is a dream in your busy schedule. What if you learned of a product 5 years in the formulation that delivers 5 servings of fruits and minerals in just 1 ounce? That's right, it's Through the Spirit. The blessings of Through the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith, but Through the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Through the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Through the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. Heard here in KSB 620, well, each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. Of course, I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today, as I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. This pre-vacation last show before I get out of town version, so I am absolutely getting them up and out of town by the time Friday rolls around. And we've opened it up to you today. We said, look, anything on your mind is okay with me. You can give us a call at 412-825-6262 at any time during this discussion. And when I hear your knock on the door, I'll let you in the store. And I had no intention as I sat down yesterday with doing anything other than just that. However, things keep getting my goat, and they keep bothering me. And when I get these bothersome moments and moods, I got to get it off my chest. And so this leads to some of the things I want to discuss with you today, talking about this issue of cholesterol. And boy, if there's been one issue that we've been rough riding over for many, many years now, is to educate you on the issue of cholesterol. And it wasn't until, and I got to hand it to Joe. Joe always shows me a different perspective, another look. And when he brought this look to me through his last little email, I said, you know what? That's right on. I've got to talk about it with my patients and my listeners. And so with my patients, I've already discussed it. With my listeners, I haven't really discussed it yet. So here we go. I asked the question at the beginning of the show, what is your good LDL level? And I meant it. Because what is happening now is that science is giving us so many different looks and abilities to take a look at our cardiovascular issues that it's possible to be so sophisticated a patient that, according to the second question, is your doctor injurious to your health, now becomes an appropriate question. Because I had a patient the other day, came in here, and he was up on everything. He had read everything, and on this issue of cholesterol, he was right on. And I hadn't educated him on it. He had done it on his own. But when he brought these very most recent articles and concepts to his doctor, all he was met with was resistance and disdain and chided for his knowledge. And the doctor went away no more enlightened than she, happened to be a she, than she was before the encounter ever began. And having that in the back of my mind, and then finding the Joe Mercola email today talking about cholesterol, I decided I'm going to bring the concept back. I'm going to talk about it in just a minute, but I do have a knock on the door. So come on the store, hello, and welcome aboard.
Yes, morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hi.
Got a question, several questions, because really one is near and dear to your heart, one's the gallbladder.
Oh, hi. On a personal note, absolutely.
Can an inflamed gallbladder cause nausea and vomiting?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. In fact, if you get in the GI system, one of the body's natural responses to not being in a completely harmonious state is to literally shut down. Now, the phenomenon is called ileus. It's a common medical problem. I think anybody who ever goes into the hospital and has abdominal surgery, there's at least a 24 to 48 hour period after that surgery where the bowel just isn't moving at all. Ileus is underway, and they have to wait for the bowel to start up again. Well, what might happen in a hospital can happen at home too. If that GI system slows down, literally stops, and you have an ileus, then the only way the system can relieve pressures is to come up from south to north. And nausea and vomiting, profuse nausea and vomiting, even when you haven't eaten anything, nausea and vomiting is probably the predominant symptom that you'd have.
How would a person go about treating that now?
Oh, well, it still would respond.
Back into sync, so to speak.
Well, first of all, if I just described a condition called ileus. You don't have to have ileus in order to have nausea and vomiting. However, I would say if you have empty stomach form of vomiting where you're getting up nothing but stomach acid and bile, now there's the gallbladder connection. It's rather vivid. The color of the emesis material is just green, and it's clear. Now that's a whole another matter. That's suggesting that the gallbladder more than likely is playing a role in all this. So the questions that your doctor will be asking you about the kind of nausea and emesis, the kind and the consistency of the material that exits the body, these are all clues to be able to focus in on as to whether or not it's gallbladder related or not. Now, I can't say that I can think of any questions that would automatically count it out. The gallbladder always has to be considered, but I'm sure I know of at least 5 questions that could allow a doctor to focus directly on the gallbladder. So, yes, that kind of activity is very helpful to your doctors in making decisions about what the cause of your nausea and vomiting is.
How would one treat the gallbladder as far as making it get it back into sync with the rest of the body?
If it can be put back into sync, and remember my own personal saga with the gallbladder, there was no way to put my gallbladder back in sync. It had to be removed. By the way, that's one of the most frequent ways that the diagnosis of gallbladder disease is made, and the resolution of the problem 90% of the time, 90% now, is to have cholecystectomy, which is the removal of the gallbladder. In this day and age, it's usually done laparoscopically, meaning that it's almost a day-long procedure. You're out the next day for sure. As to whether that drastic step is needed, there needs to be a way, and sort of studies like sonogram of the gallbladder, an easy study like that, a study that reveals the contents of the gallbladder as to whether the size of the stones could be potentially harmful. And I'll say this much about sonograms of the gallbladder. We do them in my office all the time. The very large stones, which are easily visualizable and can be measured, are not the problem. It's those tiny little stones. So when you get a report back that says multiple small stones, you're in worse shape, potentially, than any large gallstones that could be found, because those large gallstones are never going to block the bile duct. But a small stone, and here I am, I'm living proof to show it, a small gallstone certainly can, and those are the kinds that you have to protect yourself against.
Question on, person has his heart's only working at 10%. Could you get constant swelling of the feet and ankles? Is there something out there maybe a little better than LASIK?
Okay, what's working at 10%? What did you say was 10%?
The heart.
You talking about an ejection fraction of 10%?
Yeah.
Wow. That may be one of the lowest on records, in my opinion, especially when I can tell you, I normally find 30 and 40-year-olds to be in the 60% range. By the time you get into the low 20s, you are definitely afflicted with respect to your ability to just even walk across the room. When you're in the 9%, this is a patient that's wheelchair bound, aren't they?
Well, I'm close.
Oh, you are. It's you we're talking about, huh?
Yeah.
My goodness, 9%. And are you on the list for a heart transplant at all?
Well, no, I had gone through open heart surgery back in April, and when I came out of surgery, it was at 10%, and it's still 10% today.
And the overall plan for you is what?
Well, I wish I knew. I had seen Dr. Camino just several days ago, and he got sent it directly to heart and said it's still 10%.
Did you, look, just to throw something up on the table, and I'm sure Dr. Camino is a pretty knowledgeable cardiologist, but we got a guy named Dick Cheney who recently was released from the hospital with an LVAD, left ventricular assist device. Are you familiar with that? Is that an option? Pardon me?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. In your case, it appears like you could really benefit from that, and it's not a major surgery to do that. And an ejection fraction of 9%, which absolutely is impeding your ability to participate in life. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, I had a mitral valve repair, triple bypass.
Yeah, well, that's all over with, and that's done. But it's your ejection fraction that's the biggest limiting component right now. You need to be exploring those options, least invasive to most invasive, that can get that ejection fraction up to a point where you can participate in life at a level that's commensurate with life, as opposed to at 9%, which I think I'm pretty much aware of what you're consigned to. So come on in to see me so we can talk about it, and then get your Dr. Camino. So we'll have a little chit chat with him too. But it seems like you should be able to consider these more sophisticated means of getting help. There isn't, you mentioned LASIK. That's to get rid of the fluid buildup that must be occurring in your lower extremities as well as possibly in your lungs, correct?
Yeah.
So, yes, LASIK is a good tool to accomplish that. But in the long haul, the LASIK doesn't give you any greater benefit to participate in the joys of life. It just gets you out of getting into a real jam by getting rid of that excess fluid. So LASIK, I understand why it's being used, yet you have to have other options.
The thing right now with Dr. Smith says, is Johnson, so I could not tolerate the beta blockers. That make you sick, nausea, and throw up.
And you're not on Digitalis either?
So, no, what's Digitalis?
Okay. Well, look, rather than there are a whole host of things I'd love to talk to you about. planning to get in to see me so we can talk about these things, would you please?
Yeah, well, Boo said she'd fax all my information over as soon as I can.
All right, once it gets over to me, why don't you come in? I want to see you in person, all right?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I live 5 miles from Dr. Mina's office, about 50 miles from your office.
Oh, I know I'm not geographically desirable to you folks out there in Monroeville.
Yeah, and I don't drive. That's my problem. So.
Well, maybe we can talk to you about things on the phone once I have it, okay? Once I have the stuff. All right, thank you for the call. Okay. Wow. Ejection fraction of 9%. That ain't good. Hey, as I've always offered it to you, 412-825-6262 is the number to get into the store. 412-825-6262. Now, back to this little topic that's been bugging me. I told you that patient that I had in the office the other day, a very sophisticated patient, in my opinion, because of what he read, was being chastised by his doctor because he was asking the question about cholesterol, in particular LDL, and in particular, he was asking his doctor about the most recent literature and findings with respect to LDL. This new, and you all heard about it here before, we've talked about it, I called it the 9th test. And the 9th test, where there used to be 8, remember? The 8 tests that you always had to order in order to know your cardiovascular risk. A few months back, I brought to you the topic of now there is a 9th test, and that 9th test is the LDL particle size. And when he asked his doctor about, he said, doctor, what about particle size? Shouldn't we know about particle size? Oh boy. I'm listening to the patient recount to me that wasn't things didn't remain pleasant in the office after that. The doctor felt threatened and responded by just chastising the patient. Said, why would you need something like that? Where did you read something like that? Instead of actually learning something that I thought that they should already know, well, maybe it's going to take some time. Anyway, this issue of the 9th test, this issue of particle size, was spelled out in a recent Mercola email to me, and the whole issue of cholesterol comes back up and needs to be thought out once again and presented to you from another perspective. And so here's my attempt at trying to do just that. This issue of cholesterol, the big one, by the way, the one that the conventional medical community has bet the entire ranch on. You've heard me say that before. Because to them, when it comes to ordering lab work, and I say there are 9 tests to order, you can count on your doctor to order one of the 9 and not order the other 8. And the one that will be ordered is a lipid profile. And that consists of your cholesterol, triglyceride, HDL, and LDL. These are the big 4 of the big lab request by your conventional doctor. This issue of cholesterol has been, since the invention and the dawn of the invention of the statin drugs, has been so maligned, so incorrectly presented, and now, because it's been one machination after another, almost not even recognizable in a scientific discussion. With respect to cholesterol, let's see if we can dispel some of the myths and bring to the forefront a lot of the new scientific conclusions that will make you the informed consumer that you already are and make you even better. The issue of cholesterol, here's one point that I think can't be emphasized more than as many times as I've done it in the past, and I'm doing it now. The cholesterol in your blood isn't coming from your dietary intake of fat. This is one of the trite ways that the conventional medical community and in league and in conjunction with dietitians have decided to work on this matter, but it isn't the way it works. It's the liver that makes the cholesterol in your body. In fact, over 75% of all the cholesterol in your body is made from the liver. It has its own raw ingredients to do it, and it does so. As far as cholesterol is concerned, There's been the use, I've used it too, but I'm going to change up on myself, and in so doing, hopefully bring you up to a new grade of understanding, which is, we've talked a lot about good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. And because of these recent findings, that needs to be readdressed with respect to, well, what's good and what's bad. As it turns out, to use the term good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, that is completely in error from this point forward. Because cholesterol isn't either good or it isn't bad. Cholesterol is just cholesterol. It's made in your liver. It's a substance that the miraculous substance that the body can manufacture. And as it makes it, it's not designated to be good or bad at all. But of course, after it's made in the liver, it's going to have to be moved around to the body, everywhere in the body. How about to every membrane, to the multi-trillion cells that you have in your body? All membranes are composed of a cholesterol moiety that creates the cell membrane, and so the cholesterol made in your liver has got to get there. How about the hormones that are made in the body? Every hormone, that's all your estrogens, all your progesterones, all of your testosterone. The list keeps going on and on. All of your hormones have the cholesterol moiety as the standard center of that compound, whatever it happens to be. And the cholesterol made in your liver has to get there. Now, here's where the story, and I got to thank Joe for giving this perspective, this is where the story starts to change. Because the cholesterol the liver makes is all good. None of it's bad. It's just cholesterol. But using the terms good or bad with respect to the term cholesterol is no longer appropriate. But to move around the body and to be able to get from point A, the liver, to wherever point B is going to require the cholesterol hook up with a protein to form a lipoprotein. And once the lipoprotein tag gets applied or is applicable, then we can start talking about goods and bads. The cholesterol is all good, and certainly not bad at all. What it hooks up with, what proteins it hooks up with, turns out to create the potential for benefit or harm. Well, we have HDL. Now you see what's taking place. When high-density lipoproteins hook up with that cholesterol to help move it from point A to point B, you've come to appreciate the fact that HDL is good cholesterol. Well, it's not good cholesterol. It's good lipoprotein. We got to change the way we look at this. It's a good lipoprotein. There is a LDL, which we've called bad cholesterol, which can't be called bad cholesterol anymore. It's got to be called bad lipoprotein. And then we have VLDL, which is very low density lipoproteins. These are the three kinds of protein hookups that cholesterol makes so as to be able to be taken from the liver, where it's made, to wherever it has to go, and it utilizes various protein hookups to enable the transport from one place to another. Now, once you're in the area of the lipoproteins, the issues of good and bads do now come in. And so when it comes to HDL, you've heard that as a good and favorable form of lipoprotein. High-density lipoproteins are good. That is true. There are people that, based on their genetics, have a intensity and proclivity to hooking up your cholesterol with the high-density forms of proteins, forming high-density lipoproteins, and that is a testimony to your heredity. Not too much can be said about the very low-density lipoproteins. I don't find much written about them. Certainly, we could probably say that they're neither good nor bad. But when it comes to LDL, it has gotten a completely misaligned and bad rap inappropriately, because LDL, low density lipoprotein, has been labeled bad cholesterol. So we got to change that. You're too sophisticated an audience to allow LDL to get the bad rap any longer, especially when science has come in and shown us an enlightenment to a more sophisticated way of discussing LDL than it had ever provided before. We brought that to you here. It's 4 or 5 months ago. I told you that we had the 9th test, and it has to do with particle size, because as it turns out, there are 5 different LDLs. And it's possible to know when your LDL level is drawn and you get a number. Let's say your LDL is a 110. Well, that 110 is made up by adding up all of the 5 different sizes of LDL to form one aggregate number of LDL. So when you're looking at LDL, that's the total. But within that are 5 different particle sizes of LDL. There's very large size, there's large, the list goes on and on and on until you get down to something called small particle size. And this is the new science. This is the piece of information that has thrown the whole discussion, previous discussion, out of kilter, because you can have an LDL level of, let's say, let's talk a little bit about the small LDL. Small LDL is a problem. It is the worst of all forms of LDL, and the other forms of LDL are not harmful at all. It's this one LDL particle size, only the small. And the reason that the small particle sized LDL is harmful is that it's so small, it can fit into the cracks and the imperfections of the cell membrane. And once into one of those little cracks, or one of those fissures, or one of those imperfections, should it then oxidize, and it more than likely will, the damage done to the cell membrane is immeasurable, it is always deleterious, and it is always harmful. And so if you find out that you have an elevated LDL, how about these? These are the possibilities. You could have an elevated LDL, let's say of 110. But that's not too far elevated, huh? Well, what if when you get the particle size, you find out that you've got 3 and 4 times the normal amount of the small particle size? Then that 110 to you is extremely significant, because the bulk and majority of the LDL that you carry is comprised of the most injurious form of LDL, which is a small particle size. On the contrary, you could have a 110 LDL, you could have a 90 LDL, and have a completely normal or below normal small particle size, and have the bulk of your LDL made up of the large particle size, which wouldn't harm you at all. You could have an LDL of 150, which most doctors would go through the roof about in concern for you, and turn out that that 150 can't harm you a bit, because it's made mostly of larger particles. Very few of the LDL particle sizes made up to small, and if you have a average or below average small particle size amount of LDL, you will get no harm from it. And so this is the level of sophistication now that begs the question, and I admit it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek, what's your good LDL level? Well, the question really is, what's your bad LDL level? And that bad LDL level begs to ask the question, what the small particles size amount is. If you don't know it, and this is what's happening out there, and why the second question was asked about, is your doctor injurious to your health? We now are at that precipice, because the patient brought to my attention just yesterday or the day before, excuse me, how he went in to his doctor's office, an enlightened patient, and he left feeling scolded by his doctor because he brought this scientific information that he was pretty excited about and he felt that he needed to know about, but his doctor wasn't interested in having a discussion with him. And so in that case, I think it's pretty clear to say, yeah, that gentleman's doctor is injurious to his health. Because we have no idea, at least now, we're going to find out. You should know that here at our office, when we do our lab work on our patients, every single one of them has the LDL particle size run. We then know what it is when we sit down opposite a patient, and we're able to tell them if they have and should have concerns about their LDL level or not. But unless you ask for it, and the science of today, which allows a blood test like that to even be requisitioned, to know that somebody in the lab felt that it was important to offer it, but there's so few people taken up the labs on their sophistication and ability to tell you, the doctor, what the levels are, that it's now created a patient who's super sophisticated, and the doctors who remain in the dark ages, and they're so confused out there that that it's hard to. I don't like to take shots at colleagues of mine so direct. Indirectly, I guess I always chide them, but my goodness gracious, that doctor just treated that patient completely inappropriately, asking a question that was right on and specific. And so it is possible to know what your good LDL level is. It's absolutely possible to know what your bad LDL level is, and it doesn't matter what your LDL level is, whether you think it's normal and your doctors do, or think it's abnormal and the doctors do. It could turn out, based on the particle size, that it could be erroneously interpreted as being bad when it's not, and could be erroneously interpreted as being good when it's not, because if you do not have the particle sizes available to know what form of LDL we're talking about, then you don't have that level of scientific sophistication that we've now finally arrived at, and that you, the listeners of this show and this station and readers of the Joe Mercola website, are light years, are becoming, I guess what it is, you're now becoming light years ahead of your doctors, where before you might have been footsteps ahead. Now you completely passed them by. Hopefully they'll come up to the grade, but with the kind of chiding that this patient took from his doctor, and I've got a feeling it's going to be happening all too frequently, this is indefensible, and I'll let it go at that. Let's take a short break. In the interim, we want to talk about your LDL. What's your good LDL level? Do you know the particle size? And is your doctor injurious to your health? Hey, you can answer all those questions, 412-825-6262. We will be back in a moment.
Have you been to the doctor lately? Was fatigue top of your complaint list? Even if your doctor asks you what you eat, the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is a dream in your busy schedule. What if you learned of a product 5 years in the formulation that delivers 5 servings of fruits and minerals in just 1 ounce? That's right, it's Through the Spirit. The blessings of Through the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith. Let Through the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Through the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Through the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, M.D. is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you on this Wednesday version of the show, and I promise you I've climbed down off of the soapbox. I'm here back on Tierra Firma, and ready to listen to you if you want to weigh in on this subject, or any subject at all, at this 412-825-6262 number. This cholesterol thing has gotten so jumbled up, folks. It all started back there with the invention of those statin drugs, and they went and changed numbers. Of course, the normal cholesterol level is 250 to 300. I've got the medical books to prove it. Joe had mentioned in his little article that until you get to levels of at least 330 or 340, you shouldn't have any concern. I always like to see, because it's been a while since I've seen it in print. Back in the day, this was in print a lot. But to bring it up, to mention that until you get to levels of 330 and 340, you really don't have any concern about the issue of cholesterol. It's being generated by your liver, and it is the forms of cholesterol, HDL, LDL, and VLDL, that are really much more important. Yet, I've got this feeling, and at least if the discussion is anywhere near what I hear out of my colleagues, that the young doctors of today just graduate, and it's all jumbled up in their own mind. Well, here's what it is. It's not jumbled up. They think it's pretty much reduced to the fact that, hey, if your cholesterol is over 200, you got a serious problem. And as you well know by visiting your doctors, if you have anywhere near 200, you've been placed, or at least been requested to be placed, on a statin drug. Now, it's odd that this discussion comes on the heels of our discussion just Monday with Dr. Moore, Chris Moore, talking about now looking at the next frontier for the pharmaceutical companies to come in here and completely upset this cart and go after our kids. Gummy Lipitor is around the corner, and all these various action figures, gummies, sweet tasting, great tasting statins. As I left the other day, they're going to come around the corner with it, and you're going to have to keep your head straight about this to be able to fend off a medical community that's going to be there prescribing them. Unfortunately, I think I know it's going to happen. Problem is that it's so unjumbled. The word cholesterol is a bad word in most medical parlance. If you're over 200, you're going to be put on a statin. Once put on the statin, it looks as though it doesn't matter how low your cholesterol level goes. It's just never brought up again. And I've seen the levels of patients on statin drugs. I've seen the cholesterol levels go from down to 170, 160, 150, 140. I say this is a medical emergency. You don't ever want to disturb the cholesterol levels to that fact. But the doctors who are prescribing it, look at those numbers and don't pay. They just go, this is wonderful. This is working well. And the patients are, I believe, placed in a very unhealthy position with respect to having trashed their cholesterol manufacturing ability in their liver by the use of those statin drugs. Even forgetting now, how could you forget about the side effects of the drug itself? I mean, with the muscle, that's called rhabdomyolysis, the chewing up a muscle, so severe in some cases that it floods the kidney and damages the kidney and produces renal failure, and patients actually have died from statin drugs and the rhabdomyolysis, or the chewing up of muscle that can occur from it. Then there's liver damage and all sorts of things like that. So, plus CoQ10 levels, which go through the floor. Anyway, I'm not bringing up issues that are strange to you, the listener of this show, but certainly out there with the confusion that this new test is now, once again, it's all jumbled up. We're thankful for the enlightenment. I appreciate it. I like when science makes another contribution. We grab it and it enables us to focus on how to handle this in a very sophisticated way. But as you're finding out, you the listeners are becoming the sophisticated ones, and the doctors who that you have your trust in are letting you down, and all they're doing is getting angry about these things when you bring them up in discussion. So, one other thing I want to bring up with respect to cholesterol, because Joe pointed it out, and I thought it was a good point to make, especially since this year we have focused in on the vitamin D issue. I mean, the vitamin D is the hot vitamin of the year. I claim that vitamin K2 is going to be the hot vitamin for year 2011. That's yet to be seen. But unchallenged winner, the designer, the vitamin in vogue for the year 2010 has been and continues to be vitamin D. Everybody's taken vitamin D supplementations to level they had never dreamed possible, and really encouraged by their conventional medical doctors to do so. So we've made the turn on this. Vitamin D is coming to its own, but let's just say this: vitamin D isn't really a vitamin. Vitamin D is a hormone. Definition of a hormone is a substance that's made by the body in one place and used someplace else by the tissues. And that's exactly what vitamin D does. It's made in the skin, or starts the process in the skin at least, and every single cell of the body ultimately has to have some of that stuff. And because it has a steroid molecule at its crux, at its center, that steroid molecule is cholesterol. If you disturb cholesterol by taking statin drugs or inappropriately lowering the cholesterol level and start jumbling this up, you run the risk of not being able to have healthy levels of vitamin D ever generated. I don't care how much vitamin D you're taking, you won't be able to compensate for the damage done by virtue of the cholesterol-lowering drugs that you're on, because you're taking the raw material made by the liver and you're not allowing the liver to manufacture it. So if you don't have the amount of the cholesterol molecule around to be used in all of the ways that it's used, to repair membranes, to act as the moiety for all hormones. And I know it's just, so used to looking at vitamin D as a vitamin, it's tough to make the switch to appreciate vitamin D for what it really is, and which is a hormone having a cholesterol moiety at its center. And every single thing that can be said about cholesterol, and has already been said, especially today, is now applicable to standing in the way of you taking care of your vitamin D situation, which is the critical way that the vitamin D issue comes to the fore. And the question then gets begged again: is your doctor injurious to your health? And so you can't, on the one hand, be taking statin drugs inappropriately to lower cholesterol, and that the same doctor is going to try to give you a vitamin D supplement to increase your vitamin D level. These two are inconsistent with one another. And I hope you see it as such. Hey, coming around that corner, we just got a few minutes to go. Gun lap, absolutely. Home stretch. 412-825-6262. Keep in mind now, this is the last of the live shows for a bit. We're going to be back with you on the 23rd of the month. In the meantime, you're going to love hearing Roy Carey go over the thyroid issue again on Friday, and that's from the July 5th show. Then next week, Monday, Wednesday, you got vitamin C part 1 and vitamin C part 2. Yes, you are the most sophisticated listeners and patients around when it comes to the vitamin C issue. You know this issue backward and forward. We recently redid this issue in its 2010 form, and we just did it last month. And so in my absence, those of you who are newer listeners, and maybe we swamped you, maybe we gave you too much information the first time around, you get another opportunity to take a look at this on the 16th and 18th of this month, which are going to be repeat shows from the 12th and the 16th of July, respectively. Then on the 20th, Cass Ingram is going to be back with you, literally in mind and in spirit. He's going to be here at a repeat show that we did last month entitled How to Survive Your Toxic Summer. But the very next day, he claims he's going to be emerging from the woods of Manitoba, Canada. I didn't quite gather why he said he wasn't done. He was going back into the woods. But he's going to be emerging from the woods of Canada to go over, to be able to receive my phone call so we can set that date for, I hope, before the month of August is up. Complete lineup. There it is, folks. Bongos are in the background. I've now climbed down for sure off of my high horse. I hope you have an enjoyable week and a half. See you on the 23rd. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney saying so long for an impact on your health.